=script underscore start, =. They thought she would just crumble under the pressure, drop her head, accept the defeat, and let the top seed march straight to another easy victory on center court. But when the final point was won, her legs didn't just walk to the net, they completely buckled beneath her from the sheer volume of what she had just accomplished. Alex Eala, the rising phenom representing the Philippines, had just done the unthinkable on the grass, sending shockwaves through the tennis world and leaving an entire stadium in absolute disbelief. And the wildest part? This goes way deeper than anyone realizes, marking a historic shift that is rewriting the playbook for an entire nation. To understand why this moment sent 100 million people into an absolute frenzy, you have to look at what she was actually staring down across the net. She wasn't just playing against anyone, she was matching wits and power with Iga Swiatek, a multi-time Grand Slam champion who has dominated the women's tour with ruthless efficiency. For an emerging player, stepping onto that iconic center court is usually an intoxicating trap of history and intimidation, where you look at the baseline and see the ghosts of past Wimbledon champions. Most prospects choke under that shadow, but Alex Eala decided that instead of being consumed by the history of that grass, she was going to write her own chapter right then and there. Remember this detail because it becomes crucial later, when evaluating how she managed to break down the best player in the world. Last year, Alex Eala admitted that just stepping onto that legendary court made her incredibly emotional, a vulnerability that her opponents could easily exploit. But this time around, something shifted deep inside her psychology before she even laced up her shoes. She consciously forced herself into a mindset where she treated center court not as a mythical monument, but as just another patch of grass with lines painted on it. That mental calibration allowed her to balance the magnitude of the event with the cold execution needed to pull off a monumental upset. But that was just the beginning of the psychological warfare taking place out there on the lawn. What happened next on the tactical side left the commentators completely stunned. Because Alex Eala didn't try to outpower a powerhouse. She chose to break her mind instead. Throughout the grueling match, she deliberately weaponized confusion by constantly changing her speeds, altering her spins, and fluctuating the entire tempo of the rallies. 1 minute she was playing at a lightning-fast pace, and the next she was slowing the rhythm down to a crawl, completely disrupting the rhythm of her opponent. It was a masterclass in tactical discomfort, proving that forcing an elite player into their own head is often more lethal than hitting a 110-mile-an-hour ace. And this is where the story takes a turn nobody expected, especially when you look at how she views the heavy burden of her identity. In a modern sports landscape where elite athletes constantly speak about rejecting pressure and protecting their mental space by shutting out the noise, Alex Eala does the exact opposite. She represents a country of over 100 million people, with massive watch parties organized across the Philippines tracking her every single move. Yet, when asked about that crushing weight, she proudly claims it, stating that a competitive athlete must face pressure head-on because the feeling of emerging stronger from that fire is unmatched. She would rather risk giving absolutely everything and failing than spend a single second running away from the challenge. Now here's the part that should make you appreciate the sheer grit it took to get to this specific moment on the calendar. A lot of top-tier players will simply roll into the grass season at the last minute, skipping warm-up events, and relying entirely on their natural talent to carry them through the short swing. But Alex Eala took the brutal, exhausting route, grinding through 5 consecutive weeks on the grass to completely rebuild her game for the surface. She even went as far as winning a 125K event during the exact same week that Roland Garros was reaching its climax. That relentless dedication through lower-level tournaments and grueling 500-level qualifiers gave her the exact structural foundation she needed to survive a deep match against elite competition. And this is where it gets personal, revealing the deeper philosophy that guides her life outside the white lines of a tennis court. If you look closely at her gear, you will see a phrase written in Tagalog on her sweatshirt and the back of her visor that reads "Kapag lumago, hindi na hinto." That phrase loosely translates to, "When it grows, it cannot be stopped," or simply, unstoppable. For her, this isn't some cheap marketing slogan or a generic athletic cliché to sell merchandise. It is a direct reflection of her identity as an ambitious dreamer who refused to let geographic limitations define her career boundaries. She is a trailblazer in a sport that has historically offered very little exposure or infrastructure to players coming out of the Philippines. But there is a side to this story that goes beyond just winning trophies, and it offers a fascinating window into the culture she represents. Despite the fierce, aggressive nature of her tactical play on the court, her massive fan base has caught the attention of international tennis analysts for a completely different reason. While tennis crowds can often turn hostile, rowdy, or intensely toxic, the demographic of fans backing her has shown a remarkable level of politeness and hospitality toward her beaten opponents. It turns out that her supporters are mirroring her own personality, combining a fierce competitive drive during the point, with a deep cultural sense of community and respect, the moment the match concludes. Think about this for a second, because the contrast between her background and the traditional tennis elite is staggering. For decades, the sport has been dominated by established academies in Europe and North America, creating a predictable pipeline of champions who have played on immaculate surfaces since childhood. Alex Eala had to completely forge her own path, navigating a second full year on the professional grass circuit and proving that her game could translate to the highest tier of international sports. When the match ended and she shared a long, emotional hug with her parents in the stands, her father reminded her of a harsh reality. She could have been far more tired if she had lost, proving that the exhaustion of victory is always sweeter than the fatigue of defeat. Because here's what this all means going forward. For the landscape of the women's tour, Alex Eala is no longer just a feel-good story or an interesting trivia answer for sports historians. She is a legitimate, dangerous tactician who has proven she can dismantle the psychological armor of the world's top-ranked players. Her ability to command the baseline, dictate the tempo, and embrace the high-stakes pressure of center court makes her an absolute nightmare matchup in any draw. She didn't just win a match, she validated an entire developmental process and proved that an unstoppable dream, once it starts growing, can completely disrupt the established hierarchy of global tennis. So you have to ask yourself, are we looking at a temporary flash in the pan, or is this the definitive arrival of the next great superstar of the sport? When a player openly welcomes the pressure of an entire nation and backs it up by outsmarting the absolute best in the world on the biggest stage imaginable, the rest of the tour needs to take notice. Alex Eala has made it clear that she is not content with just being a participant or a polite representative of her country. She wants the crown. Drop a comment below and let me know if you think she has what it takes to win a Grand Slam, or if the grueling nature of the tour will eventually catch up to her momentum. =Sai _END, =.